All right, guys, let's get going. First of all, welcome today for everyone that's attended, and we're really excited. This is our third webinar in the series this year, and this one today is on 5 key online marketing strategies to really maximize your business. Now, we're going to be playing a quick video just first up to provide a bit of context to the actual landscape and the environment that we're playing in at the moment in Australia. So let's just play this. This is a video that Google put together, and it's a great video. So let's quickly watch that. All right, guys, we'll skip the video because apparently we can't get audio on that, but it's a great video. If you want to check it out, it's on YouTube, and it's basically a video. I'll send you a link after today so you can really check that out. It's hilarious, and it's really about the disconnect really between the physical world and the online world and how we really need to bridge that gap. But without further ado, we're going to get into it today. Today's goal is really to look at 2 things, and that's really improving the profitability of your online marketing campaigns and to massively increase your sales and leads. So all of the strategies we're looking at today really work and have been tried and tested for virtually any business. So hopefully you know, you're going to get a lot of value out of today, and if really you only pick up one thing out of today, you know, you're going to massively hopefully put that into use and have a big impact. So let's really get on with it. Okay, so a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the CEO and founder of SponsorLinks Australia. We founded the business almost 10 years ago, and today we've grown into becoming to become one of the largest Google partners in Australia. You know, we've been the most awarded partner over the years, BRW Fast 100 and Best in Search and so on and so forth. We've also managed some of the largest businesses in Australia, but the best thing I'm most proud of is all of the small to medium businesses that we've managed over the years, because we've really got a good insight into what works online and truly what doesn't work online, and that's really what we're going to be going into today, and sort of showing you what's what. All right, so again, all of these strategies in the book that we're using have been put together in a book that I put together called Don't Guess. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Don't Guess, it's a great book, and if you send an email to myself, which is at ben@sponsoredlinks with an x.com, I'll be more than happy to send you a copy of that book today. All right, now recently we won the Google Partners All-Stars competition. This is only last week. I flew to San Francisco and visited the Googleplex there, and it's absolutely amazing. So some of the strategies that I'll be sharing with you and some of the stats have actually come directly from some of the information I learned whilst over there. So hopefully this is as up to date as we can get it today, and you're going to get some value from it. All right, now a bit about me again. I wasn't always the CEO and founder of SponsorLinks. I used to actually be a corporate magician who used to cut people in half and do all sorts of cool things. Now the challenge I had is I needed to get sales and leads, and it, you know, very early on in my business discovered online marketing. So I found all my time I was optimizing online marketing campaigns, and really loved that process. So as a self-taught online marketer, you really, I do really relate to some of the you know, some of the businesses that we manage, and today we're really going to get into some of the strategies that you can apply as well, and really get into that. So let's get going on that. Now today, make sure you ask heaps of questions. At the end, I'll be sort of monitoring that, and we've got a few people on standby. Some of our search marketing superstars are going to be on hand answering any questions that you may have. All right, and also make sure you take plenty of notes. All right, now the first thing to remember with online marketing is that online marketing is simple. Far too often I see people really complicating it and you know, thinking of it as computer stuff and everything like that. In many cases they look like this. We're really confused and this sort of thing. And I'm here to tell you today that you don't need to be like that. Online marketing is actually quite straightforward. Now, what we do know is that there's a bit of you know, mismatched context with online marketing where, you know, there's all this information and it's changing so fast. And what today's really going to do for you, hopefully, is provide some context to that noise. And hopefully you're going to apply these strategies and get make more sense of online marketing in general. We're also going to show you how to look under your hood of your websites and get more insight. Now, for those of you who aren't too technical, we do have some people standing by today and tomorrow that can help you with that. Part of our digital strategy team, and we can go into that in more detail. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do before getting into the strategy side of things is to really understand the landscape. Now, I'm a big believer if you understand the rules of the game, you're going to be able to play that game much, much better than your competitors. So we're going to actually look today mainly at Google because, you know, Google is by far the #1 search engine in Australia. You know, in fact, it represents currently 93.39% of search in Australia, which is a massive you know, a massive shareholder. So we're going to look at, when we're talking about search, we're going to be really referring to Google there. We do know in a mobile environment, Google actually represents much more, you know, physical searching on Safari there. So it's that's going to be the area of focus. Now, here's an interesting slide that we're going to put up on screen in a sec. Now, what this is going to show is the percentage of clicks versus time spent. Now, as you're obviously scrolling down the page, you're really going to lose, you know, click-through and the time that people spend on the site. So what we're seeing here is the difference, the profound difference, say, between positions 1 and position 2 goes from 56% to 13% of clicks. So, you know, for example, if you were doing SEO, for example, it just goes to show how critical the difference between, say, positions even 3 and positions 1 are. So that's just an interesting fact before we get going. The other interesting thing I'll put up on screen here is a heat map. Now, this heat map is referred to in the online marketing community as the golden triangle. And what it's looking at here is people's eye movement. And as you can see here, people are sort of going towards the top left mostly. So again, more reason not only to be on the first page of Google, but to be higher up. You can see the big red line there that where it starts. That's called the fold. And we refer to that as the online equator. So you really want to be above the fold, but you know, obviously the higher up you get, the more click-throughs you're going to get. All right, now another key thing with the landscape and the environment that we're looking at today is mobiles is becoming obviously a massive thing. In fact, more people now own a mobile phone than a toilet in the world. So it's just massively you know, massively changing the way people consume the internet in general. So when we're sort of considering this, you know, one interesting thing we've seen recently is a stat that 86% of people don't have a mobile responsive website. So, you know, you can imagine, you know, with stats where almost 50% of traffic are coming from mobile for local searches, and 86% of people don't have a mobile responsive website, there's a huge opportunity there as a business owner to capitalize on that market. So some recent stats on mobile is 5.8 hours was spent per person consuming media via a mobile device, which is huge. That's the most amount of media consumption across any you know, traditional media. The other thing is quite interesting, and this is from Google, was 100 times a day people are checking their phone, which is just, you know, it's just really profound when you really think about how reliant we really are on these smartphones nowadays. Yeah, it's a really interesting fact. So let's sort of keep all of that in mind, and let's head into some strategies. The key thing with strategy is obviously it's a plan and a method or a series of maneuvers to obtain a specific goal. So the key thing you've got to think about there is really what is the goal you're trying to achieve with your online marketing. Now, we're going to really today make the assumption that we're going to do those two things, really get more sales and leads, and really try and just grow your business overall in terms of traffic. So let's sort of apply or go through some strategies that we use that are proven and tried and tested to really maximize those two goals. So the first one is called traffic conversion retention. Now, by far, this is the most effective strategy that you can roll out, I believe, in your business, because it works for every business, and it provides really good context to manage all of the areas of online marketing. So, for example, let's get into traffic. Now, in fact, before we get into traffic, we'll pull up a slide here. We had a client recently that did actually apply this strategy, and they got a 275% increase in their conversions. So this stuff works. You know, we're not just regurgitating stuff off the net or anything like this. These are strategies that we've used internally that we know work every time. All right. So first one with traffic is to identify the customers for who that what they're searching for, and also then get traffic from multiple web sources. So when we're thinking of traffic, you don't just want to get traffic from one, from one web source. For example, you might be getting all your traffic from social media, or you might be getting all your traffic from SEO or from content. Now, one thing you need to remember is all traffic is different. They're a different, usually a different user group. They're a different in a different environment. For example, if you're on Facebook, you're in a different frame of mind than if you're searching Google. Because usually if you're searching Google, you're actually looking for something. So if you had an AdWords campaign, for example, which hopefully a lot of you guys do because it's one of the most effective ways we think to generate leads online, it's a different user experience. So keep that in mind with traffic. But what we're sort of saying here with traffic is we would think you would need multiple traffic sources. So what we see overall is if you get traffic from more than one web source, it has an overall impact, usually a 3-4-fold. The next step is to convert that traffic at a much higher rate than your competitors. So just think about that. If you were converting the traffic at, instead of 1%, 2%, that's a 100% increase in sales and leads. Essentially, you've doubled it. And all you really do is just focus on, tweaking your website. So we're going to show you in a sec conversion in more detail. So let's get into that. So the first thing you need to do with conversion is identify the traffic that's first of all going to the website, and make sure your website is extremely clear on the message that they've looked for. So, for example, if I was looking for emergency plumbing, I'd have a Google ad, for example, that shows up saying emergency plumbing. Then I want to land on the page that tells me everything about emergency plumbing. And that user experience is going to generally yield a much higher conversion rate. Now, the other thing we see quite often with our clients is some websites. Now, this is not a client, but this image here just really illustrates how cluttered a website can get, and how really less is more when it comes to web conversion. There was a book written on web conversion called "Don't Make Me Think," and a phenomenal book, and it really just simply, it's exactly that. A user really just doesn't want to have to think when they go to the website. They usually just want to do a few things. They want to find your contact details, just make sure is there trust there, and sort of make that process as easy as possible for them. So for those of you who are familiar with converter pages or have converter pages, this is a great way to go to really maximize your leads. In some cases, we're getting a 79% increase in conversion rate. And what they essentially are is an optimized mobile responsive landing page. So what we're saying here is if you're running an AdWords campaign or any paid advertising for that matter, whether it be paid Facebook ads or anything like that, you're going to get a much better, and usually we're seeing at least a 3- to 4-fold increase in conversions, which when you think about it, is 300 to 400% increase just by simply removing navigation, making it mobile responsive, and having usually a double opt-in, and just simplifying the content. So if you haven't looked at Converto pages yet, ask your client managers, because certainly a great tool that we're using. They're extremely cheap, and in my mind, it's something you can't afford not to have. Alternatively, you can get your web designer to, or even yourself, you can try and look at or get advice from us on how to build a good landing page, and I think we even have a webinar coming up on that. All right, but here's a few examples anyway. Now, as you can see here, usually you're going to get a much better conversion rate. But here's just a quick example. For example, if you went from a 0.2% conversion rate to 1.2, just 1%, traffic-wise, you've gone from 1,200 to 2,800, and if you think about the revenue and the average sales value, then it's just huge. So the key thing there is, all the time we're so focused on optimizing the AdWords campaigns that sometimes the quickest fix can be just, improving the website's conversion rate. So that's a good takeaway. All right, so the next thing is retention. Build and market to a database. So, we've got the traffic, we're converting at a higher rate than anyone else. The next thing is to try and make sure that we're remarketing and capturing the data of the people that have already gone to our websites so we can send them an email back or something like that. Now, we've ran campaigns for clients where we knew that, and the clients knew that we were almost happy to break even on the traffic conversion process and put them all into an email marketing database, and then we'd get the profit from there. So, you send an email out once a week, once a month, whatever the case may be, but every single email purchase from that database is pure profit. So, there's many ways to sort of get additional profit out of an online marketing campaign, but if you sort of dissect the traffic conversion retention philosophy, it really, you can really identify areas to really maximize profit and obviously sales. All right, so like I said, it's all about, in the retention side of things, it's all about gathering and collecting the information from your customers, whether that be from an email marketing campaign or from the lead, the initial lead from AdWords. It goes into a mail system or something like that. Another great way is, once you've got this data, is also to implement a remarketing campaign with AdWords. So works on sort of similar process, but you can obviously, with Google now, and AdWords, you can track somebody's gone to your website, and then your ad will follow them around. So this is great branding exercise, and it really does maximize conversions overall, because you've had somebody that's gone through the traffic conversion process, or even not even through the conversion process, just the traffic in this case, then they've left your site because they got distracted, the baby screamed, or the phone rang, and now you're able to re-engage them and get them back to your website. So if you haven't looked at remarketing, it's definitely something worth looking at. And finally, like I said earlier, is email marketing. Too many people, I think, are focused on Facebook, and don't get me wrong, Facebook is a really effective strategy. Our Facebook team, gets some great results. But don't forget email marketing, because email is really still an effective way to sort of get engagement from your client base. All right, and one more thing is the 80-20 rule. Now, the 80-20 rule for me is just by far one of the most effective marketing lessons that I ever learned. Now, this really applies to, in particular, AdWords campaigns and SEO, because what we find, say, with AdWords is that 20% of your keywords will give you 80% of your sales and leads. So, when you think about that, if 20% of your keywords are going to give you 80% of your sales and leads, effectively you're paying for all of those keywords, 100% of them. And the real art form then of online marketing is figuring out which keywords generate sales and leads online and which ones don't. Right. So essentially what we're trying to do there is to really understand the difference. Now, if you can track your conversions with AdWords, which you can, it makes it really easy to sort of sort the keywords that are converting from the ones that aren't, and obviously then either stop bidding on the ones that aren't, or peel and stick them into different ad groups or whatever. But the 80-20 rule is a really good strategy to apply, not just to generalized marketing and business, but to AdWords and SEO in general. So again, it's 20% of your keywords will provide 80% of your sales and leads as a rule of thumb. Now, it's not always exactly like that, but it's pretty close. All right, now strategy number 3 is the GR rule. Now, our SEO team uses this strategy all the time, and it stands for genuine relevance gets results. Now, when you think about that, genuine relevance gets results. Now, Google's job is to sort the world's information and provide the most relevant results to the users, not the most irrelevant. So, when you're approaching SEO or online marketing, or say you're writing some content on your website, you really want to ask yourself, is this content really relevant to my target audience? Is it really going to get results? And is it really going to be something that's going to be of value to my audience when they read it? Don't just write content for the sake of writing content to get a ranking on Google, because it's generally not going to work. So the GRGR rule is a really good rule of thumb, and if this is the only thing you take away from today, it could be the one thing that really has an impact. So have a think about the GRGR rule and how you can apply that. Now here's a quick illustration of how it might work. So Google again does a really good job, of sorting the world's information. In fact, in an eighth of a second from a search term, it's going to provide you with a result. In many cases, it's less than that. So again, it's all about being relevant and generating content that's going to be relevant to your audience. Now, the strategy number 4 is the ATM machine. Now, the ATM machine is a really good way to think for everybody that's advertising on AdWords. This is by far probably one of the best ways you can think about it, because too often do I see people making mistakes in terms of their budget and how they think about their ROI on AdWords, and this is just a good way to address that. So what I'm going to ask you to do here is to think of an ATM machine in your wall right now, and if you had an ATM machine in your wall and you pulled out of your wallet $50, and think of that as a $50 daily budget on Google, and you put that $50 into the wall and it spat out a $50 note, you probably wouldn't keep doing that, right? That's rule of thumb. But if you spat, say, a $50 note in the wall and a $100 note came out, you'd keep doing it. So the real thinking there is obviously, far too often I see profitable campaigns where we know they're profitable. Now, a campaign is either profitable or it's not. It's really not in between. So if it's profitable and you're putting in $50 and you're getting $65 back, you'd really want to put another $50 in or ramp up, because what tends to happen is if you increase your budget generally with Google, you get a much better return on investment because your ads show more often, and therefore the people that can't find you are going to find you again. So generally speaking, think of the ATM machine as a really good sort of way to sort of think about the general ROI overall. All right, now strategy number 5 is obviously don't guess. Far too often we see small businesses really putting way too much guesswork into their online marketing. Now, for the first time in online marketing history, we no longer need to guess. We can really track information of what's happening on the website, within the AdWords campaigns, even SEO, in virtually live time. So, it really is critical that if you're not tracking, say, with Google Analytics and checking that on a regular basis, you need to be. Now, I do seminars quite often, and I ask everyone to put their hands up who's got Analytics installed. Most of the room goes up. Then I ask people to put their hands up if they don't have Analytics, they're not checking it at least once a week. Most of the room goes down, and then people that are actually doing something about the data. Far too often, you see people having the security blanket of getting Analytics installed, but not doing anything about the data. So if you want to be competitive online and really smash your competitors, having Analytics installed is a really smart way to really understand what your users are doing, interpret that data, and make changes either to your website or to your online marketing campaigns. Now, most of our team are all really up to date with analytics and all the latest tips and tricks, especially universal analytics. So if you have any questions at all regarding analytics, just speak to our team and we'll be more than happy to help you out. All right. So as you can see here, there's a book. If you want an email of the book today with some of these strategies in there, we'll email it out at no charge for being a sponsor link client. It's got some really good information in there in terms of the strategies, and it goes into more detail that we're going to go into today. So analytics. So one of the big things you get from analytics that I find, in fact, a friend of mine at Google did a talk, and he refers to it as the SPEW rating. Now, the main thing there is people go to your website, They literally vomit and they leave. And that's the metric that Google will refer to that at is the bounce rate. So if one of the things you can do if you integrate analytics with AdWords, you can really understand the bounce rate per page. So you can go, for example, why is my my flowers page get a much higher bounce rate than, say, the roses page? And you can really look, well, it's either the traffic flowing to it that's an issue, or it's the web page itself that's an issue. And it's usually one of those two things. So just by sort of measuring bounce rate and having analytics installed correctly, so even with goals and funnels, which we can all do for you, that's going to be a much better way to really understand what's happening and to sort of squeeze that extra profit out of your website. So we've got many tools that we have access to. So, one of them is obviously integrating analytics, as we just spoke about, but we have our own client panel as well. So for those of you who are clients that haven't checked out our client panel, it provides really good analytics on, where to sort of maximize and what's really happening within the campaign. You can sort of go to start and end dates and custom ranges and things like that. And the navigation is actually based on our strategy, which is traffic conversion retention. So it really sort of makes sense when you're sort of going through it. So if you haven't checked it out already, check out our client panel. You can get SEO stats in there. You can get your AdWords stats in there. Obviously, reporting, previous reports, all this sort of stuff is in there. So check it out. Speak to your client managers and get your logins if you haven't got them already. And check that out because that's a free tool. And obviously we have our weekly reports. Now, our weekly reports, mark any improvements, and are really good, again, useful to really maximize your results. If you're really wanting to keep an eye and beat your competitors, you really need to be measuring and monitoring what's going on with your own online marketing. So one of the things we do is send a weekly report, not a monthly report, so you can really see what's going on. So really check out those weekly reports because they do provide some good data. One of the things you'll see is a good indicator is usually click-through rate or average position, so you can really just see what's happening there. All right, guys, and lastly, today we're going to be going through the online marketing strategy sessions with some of our digital strategy teams. So for any of you guys that are really wanting more in-depth knowledge and sort of wanting to go through a more personalized experience with a digital strategy consultant, we've got 3 people sort of reserved, I guess, for today's webinar that are more than happy for our clients to go through and talk about strategy and sort of look at what may be performing, what may not be performing, just generally get a better feel for your business overall and how we can really help maximize it. At Sponsored Links, we really are results driven. We're all about, we have no contracts and we're all about maximizing our clients' results. So, the better we can, which is why we do things like this. So the better, we can do in that area, we obviously, the better our clients are going to succeed. And obviously everyone's happy in that scenario. So, so today we have a digital strategy audit that we're offering, which is only for today. And for if you're watching this webinar back on a recording, obviously you can still apply. But quote the code, it's WEBDGA 2014. And that code there is, if you go to the URL there, which is /webinar, you're obviously going to be able to enter that code and you'll qualify for the free audit. So we may only be able to get through around about 15 or 20 audits over the next sort of 24 to 48 hours, but hopefully if you get in time, then you should be fine. So that's about it for today, guys. Obviously, we're just trying to get as much information to you and sort of provide context for some of our upcoming webinars. It's an absolute pleasure to be part of the Small Business Week in Queensland as well, that is helping support some of our webinars, and just a great initiative by the government there. So that's all for today. Feel free to email me if you have any questions at all as well. My email is ben@sponsoredlinks.com.au. So feel free to email if you have any questions in relation to the webinar today. Your feedback would be great also, and we'll be standing by now answering any questions. All right, we've got about 30 questions there, so we're going to have to attend to those. But thanks again, guys, for your attending today. Hopefully you got a few things from it, and we'll see you next time as part of the Webinar Optimise series.